Hey guys, Mike McErlane again with the MF Trainer, and welcome to another episode of Workout 101. A lot of different people understand that squatting is actually the king of all exercises. Now there are different types of squats. Traditionally, more people are used to just the back squat. Some people might even incorporate the front squat. But really, what's the difference? So I'm going to explain how to do each one of these and then explain how the difference is and what you can expect to get from doing each one of them, okay? So the first, I'm just going to perform a regular back squat, all right? Now when you perform a back squat, there's a couple different techniques to understand. The first thing to really understand of what you should do is, first of all, don't use one of those pads, okay? If you have to, wrap a towel around the bar if it hurts your back. But try and get out of the habit of using one of the pee pads is what I call it, all right? So first is, you have to find out where to put the bar on your back. Now there's a difference between having a bar high, which is across the back right here, or a low, which is down more on the lower traps here. Depending on, some people have mobility issues with their backs and their knees, but bar placement plays a key role in how you actually squat and the technique in which you're going to choose to use, all right? So first and foremost, I just go with a regular bar placement. It's in between a high and a low bar placement, okay? That's what I would recommend. So as I get under here, I'm not going to go low, and I'm not going to go high. I'm going to go right across the shoulders, and the bar placement should be even, all right? So as I step out here, and once you figured out the bar placement, the next thing to figure out is your stance, okay? Now there are two different types of stances. If you notice, my feet right now are just about shoulder width apart, okay? Now this is what's called a power stance, all right? This is where you generate more power. So if you're jumping, your feet are generally about shoulder width apart. That generates the most power, okay? There's another type of a stance, which most power lifters, or I should actually call them strength lifters, a lot of the Olympic athletes do, and that's called a strength stance, which is to have your feet a little bit wider and the toes pointed outward a little bit. This particular stance might be a little bit easier for people to do just because it allows a little bit more hip torque and less knee torque on the muscles, or on the hips, okay? So, let's start with right in between. Not necessarily a true power stance, not necessarily a true strength stance. We're just going with a regular stance. I'm going to turn my toes just slightly outward to make sure that my knees track right over my toes and they don't flare in, they don't flare out. So as I sit and squat here, I'm going to bend about the hips. I'm going to keep my chest nice and broad, and as I squat down, I'm looking straight ahead. Don't put your head up, okay? Keep your head in the neutral position. That's the most important thing too when you squat. You don't want your head up, you don't want to tuck your chin, you want everything neutral, you want the spine nice and neutral, okay? So as I squat down here, the key is to try and go to a parallel position. So as I squat, I'm shifting my hips back, and I'm going to come down to a parallel position, and then right back up, okay? Don't let your heels come up off of the ground. If you have problems with your heels coming up off of the ground, that's usually because your knees are tracking really far over your toes and there's not enough bend in your hip. That could result from the bar being too high or having a pad on it, or just not understanding that you have to shift your hips back, okay? So this is a regular back squat. There's a lot of debate out there of a common term called ass to grass. I don't necessarily preach that because that results in a lot of people just slamming down to the ground and getting a bounce, which can result in lower back or lumbar problems. So you just want to go parallel and then right back up. Avoid this type of a movement. That's all kinds of trouble. Control the eccentric or the down phase of the squat. And come up. Go down parallel and come up. And that's a back squat. Okay, so as I rack the weight here, now I'm going to go over the front squat and the differences between as soon as I get done with the technique here. The front squat, there's two different types of placement that you can do, or approaches. I generally use what's called crossing of the hands. And what I do is I position my shoulders right on the little cup here in my shoulder joint, and I make sure the bar's sitting right in that spot. And I cross my hands and I grab the bar here, which secures it in place. Some people who don't have the cross down can use what's called a catch position, which is generally just the catch that you have in a clean. So you come up and you let the bar rest on your shoulders here, and you have your arms in the catch position. I'm going to use a cross position because it allows me a little bit more control. Same thing, I'm going to choose not necessarily a power stance, not necessarily a strength stance, crossing the bar, and I'm going down just to the parallel position, keeping my eyes straight ahead, my head neutral, my back straight, not bending in my back, going down parallel, coming right back up. Again, keeping my heels on the ground. And racking the weight. So now here are the differences between the back squat and a front squat. A back squat puts more of the load on the glutes, on the hammies, yes, on the quads too, but because of the bar position being behind the center line, you're going to put more emphasis on your glutes and on your hammies than you do on your quads. When you do a front squat, because the bar is now in front, or the front line of the center of gravity, you're going to put more emphasis on your quads. Those are the two different types of a squat that you're probably most commonly used to. Now, a front squat, you probably can't go as heavy just because it's a little unstable, and it also, you're not going to get as much power as you come through the movement, which results in your glutes and in your hamstrings. Until next time, take care.